marketing. Alleged fools bequeath. Who fears the dragon scale? But soon war's pound and beat awakens the legend from sleep. The terror will soon meet. Hunger drives it from the deep. Humanity's evils repaid as fangs and chlorine, and all grow dismayed when the serpent descends to swim to our road. Too terrible to behold. His dark shadow blackens the sun, rendering all earth cold. Its fiery wrath, bringing swift ends to all in its path, and the contact.
Oh, 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 oh. You're here for a reason. You're no accident. You're the answer to a problem. You were heaven sent. You're the only one who has what it will take to be that answer. Make no mistake, and I'll tell you now. You're here for a reason. You're no accident. You're the answer to a problem. You were heaven sent. You may be feeling like you're all alone, just a tiny pebble in a world full of stone. But I'll tell you now, you're here for a reason. You're no accident. You're the answer to a problem. You were heaven sent. Deep down inside you, waiting to be free, is the power to save the world in me. tell you now. Oh, here for a reason. You're no accident. You're the answer to a problem. You were heaven sent. Oh, 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 oh. Love is the reason you were born that day. Love is the answer, and its light show the way. 'Cause I'll tell you now, you're here for a reason. You're no accident. You're the answer to a problem. You were heaven sent.
Okay, that's lovely, but now it is time for us to get started with the real deal. Excuse me for a moment while we're getting my computer to work. You're gonna get to see my mug, which is not what you wanted, not what you signed up for, but it is what you're getting today. Alright, I gotta find where my stupid my writing and chatting is not wanting to pop up, so there we go. Alright, now she's gonna be good. She's gonna behave. Woohoo! Back to writing and chatting. That's right, this Valentine's Day, brought to you by... Hey Sparky, good to see you. Glad to have you in here. Oh my goodness. There we go. We've now got our writing up. We're going to follow the prescribed normal formula, which is to start off by reading the last chapter we wrote before we get into the good stuff, which is namely writing today's chapter. And I need to close this so that we can see more of what we're writing. Oh, and I also need to mute myself on YouTube because having that echo in my head is like not what I need. There's nothing quite like hearing yourself at a slight delay to throw you off track. Thanks for joining us, Sparky. I'm glad to see you here, along with Cal. Cal sent me a sticker, which I will show at the end of the stream. Don't let me forget, Cal. It's cool. I appreciate the thank you card, too. Is there something wrong with the volume, or is it on your end you're barely able to hear? Well, it might be on my end. I might be too low. Sometimes that happens to me. Let's see. Ugh. I'm not as good at this as Ubi is, so let me crank up that volume. See if you're better now. Can you hear better now? Let me know in the chat if that is better volume. Because I just doubled the volume, so hopefully that helped with the problem. Did it help? Okay, good. All right. Chapter 15, The Detective's Investigation. Detective Early Man wasn't sure what he was going to find when he stepped inside the small blue bungalow. The place looked surprisingly tidy for a single man. Everything had a place and seemed to have been given meticulous care. That'll make spotting oddities easier, man thought. It was harder working a crime scene at a messy house. You had to take more time to study it and go over it before the patterns of what belonged and what didn't started to emerge. He followed the trail of debris from the back door to the living room, taking pictures as he went to document the evidence. His body cam recorded a video walkthrough. While his body... You know what? Let's just edit that sentence. While his body cam recorded the video walkthrough. He spotted a table knocked over, a lamp on its side, the telltale signs of a scuffle of some sort. That's when his eyes spotted it. A sheet of paper, creased, neatly folded, but with evidence of having been taken out and read many, many times. Yellowing on the edges from where the oil of fingers lingered, the thinness of the paper at the creases indicating age and use. He reached out a gloved hand and picked up the paper, tucking it into a Ziploc baggie and marking it as evidence. Larger towns might have more people involved in a case like this, but this small town barely had the budget for his salary, let alone another detective. He was grateful that crimes like this were not common, or not the norm. He could afford to spend more time on this scene. The only downside was that the laboratories might take weeks, even months, to get back to him on their analysis. Did Hawkeye have that long? The probabilities weren't good. Most kidnapping victims not found within the first 72 hours turned up dead if they ever turned up at all. The witness at the scene wasn't even sure how long the man at this house had been gone. She suspected several days before she'd arrived. He wondered about their relationship. She'd said they were just bandmates, but was there more to it? Selfishly, he hoped not. She'd certainly got his eye. He found himself smiling as he thought about her and shook his head to clear his mind. He didn't need that kind of distraction right now. Besides, it was possible that she was guilty or involved in the kidnapping somehow. It wouldn't be the first time in history that someone at the crime scene turned up to be directly involved in the crime. Psychopaths often did that. She didn't seem like a psychopath, he mused, but that was the thing about psychopaths. They usually didn't. The rest of the house seemed to be in good order, nothing out of place, nothing that caught his attention, and, most importantly, no sign of a female presence. Nothing to indicate a girlfriend or regular partner of that sort. Hawkeye could be gay, he supposed, but there didn't seem to be evidence of a second male in the place either. He was pretty sure the man lived entirely alone, except for the cat. What did she said its name was? Furball? Fuzzbutt? Something like that? Speaking of cats, he decided to look for the litter box. She'd mentioned the cat was an indoor cat. Looking at the box might tell him how long since it had last been cleaned, which could give him a clue as to how long Hawkeye had been missing, especially given how attentive to cleanliness the man seemed to be in every other area of his life. It didn't take him long to find the litter box. His eyes watered as he stepped into the laundry room. Judging by the smell coming from it, he'd say it had been at least a week since its last cleaning. His eyes spotted something blue in the midst of a pile of feces. Taking a closer look, he realized it was a small baggie, and plucked it out to drop it into another Ziploc baggie. "They don't pay me enough to do this job," he muttered under his breath. He wondered if it was related to the case, but couldn't rule it out. Was it a clue as to how Hawkeye ended up being abducted? There were 7 things to do in any small town, based on his experience. 5 of them were legal. 4 if you were under 21. 3 if you were under 18. 2 if you weren't religious. Drug and alcohol abuse were a persistent problem. Was Hawkeye caught up in the drug trade somehow? He spent another 30 minutes investigating the house before taping off the crime scene and then heading back to his car. He hoped the woman, he looked at his notebook to read her name, Lauren, was not getting too impatient. "All right, miss, I'm through with my preliminary investigation," he said as he tapped on her window. "I can take the cat from you now," he smiled. She picked up Fireball from her lap and handed her over. "Take good care of her, would you?" she said. "Hawkeye'd be devastated if he lost her." She nodded. "I'll do my best. You'll come by with the litter and the cat food later?" She laughed. "Sure will. We take care of our own in this community." The cat seemed content to curl up against him. It started purring as he walked over to his cruiser and placed her in the back seat, which was separated from the front by a steel grille to ensure that perpetrators couldn't attack the officers transporting them. "I don't know how well you handle car rides, little lady, and I can't afford to have you climbing up my back once I get on the road," he explained, as if she could understand. She gave a soft, plaintive mew as she shut the door. He felt a little bad for her. Lost her owner and now tried it out twice in the space of a single day. "At least you're not going to the shelter," he said. He placed the evidence in the front passenger seat and then headed out. He'd need to drop the cat off at his place before heading back to the police station to fill out his report. Then it would be time to do a preliminary analysis of the evidence on the equipment there before he could kick it up to the labs in the nearest big city for more detailed findings. All right. And now, having said that, we are ready to launch into Chapter 16. And we were going to pick back up with Seymour and Delilah. And so let's think about this for a minute. Remember, way back in the wind, we had Seymour helping poor old Delilah find her way to a repair shop. Alright, I'm gonna shrink this down for a little bit just so I can get my menu bar back and navigate a little better. Yeah, Seymour, where he met Delilah. He was on his way to Mammoth's Cave when he caught up with Delilah, an old girlfriend of his. And she had a problem with the car that she was driving, just losing power and then stopping. So he was going to take her up the road to the nearest repair center and had forgotten all about his plan to interfere with and investigate in the investigation into the disappearance of Hawkeye. So he's fully distracted by Delilah. They're on the mission to figure out what's wrong with her car. So at this point in time, we need to decide what Delilah's role in this whole escapade is going to be. Because you don't want to, I mean, as much fun as it is to just drop random characters in, you do need to weave them into the story somehow. You need to make sure that their presence in the story makes some absolute sense and contributes to the overall main theme, which currently is rescuing Hawkeye. So, is Delilah's appearance there? Is Delilah, is let's put it this way, is Seymour's meeting with Delilah pure coincidence? Or a setup? Alright, let's start that poll. I'll give y'all a little bit to decide. Got one vote for a pure coincidence. Let's see who else votes. Yeah, we got 2/3 of the votes. We can safely end the poll. It is a setup. Now, that means that Seymour is being monitored. Because how else would somebody know to send a setup if they didn't also know that he was already headed out there? Ah, yes. So she knows DeVries. DeVries has been monitoring Seymour, and Delilah is the catch. Give me just a moment. I'm about to sneeze my head off. Alright, there we go. I have muted it so that you guys didn't have to hear that. Alright, so this is an intentional distraction, which is a different thing than a pure coincidental distraction. Alright. Well, we've already gotten one clue. Delilah and Seymour met in college. So let's run down the facts. What do we know and what have we learned about Seymour and Delilah that will help us make those connections? So let's go back over to the chapter where we first meet Delilah, and then we'll talk a little bit more about what we know about Seymour. We're just going to kind of drop our findings about these characters. And that's something that's really helpful when you're writing, is keeping character Bibles. Little details as you write them about each character that help you keep track of who they are and what facts about them you've learned. Okay, so we know based on the starting of Seymour's game, or Seymour's chapter, Seymour is a gamer, right? Because he was playing a video game with a team. So probably something like Fortnite. Now, he knows Hawkeye. We know that. From chat, right? They've only ever met online. Lauren's met Hawkeye in person. Let's see. He also knows Lauren from chat. Alright. He has the ability, he knows Mortis well enough to have his number. Both Mortis and Lauren. To have gotten their phone numbers, okay? And if you think about it, that's kind of, that indicates a closer relationship than your average streamer's relationship. That means this streaming community is kind of tight. I'm going to come in and I'm going to put this all together, but I'm writing it on a notepad right now because it's my tendency. Let's see. Okay, so we also know that Seymour lives about an hour's drive from his house. Or Seymour lives about an hour's drive from Mammoth Caves. So that puts him somewhere in the Midwest. He filled up a flask of whiskey, so he's a drinker. At least marginally. He's also a speeder because he planned to drive 80 miles an hour. He's someone who likes to go fast. Alright. Now. Delilah. Now we need to know what about Delilah, right? So, she's got dark hair, wearing a short red mini dress, and she's got sleek curves, so. She's got Bessie, the guitar. She's an acoustic guitarist. And they met in college. So that's how Seymour and Delilah met, was in college. Seymour is not much of a car guy. Not the kind of guy to get his hands dirty. Ooh, that's true. Yeah. The online game may have malware. His cell phone is synced up with his laptop, allowing monitor from elsewhere. So it's possible. We also know other things about Seymour. Like, he's got a $12,000. No worries, Timmy. Good to see you, man. We know he's got $12,000 in the IRS debt that he doesn't know how to pay. So he's a really good subject for blackmail. Poor guy. Almost. Let's see. Because when we first met Seymour, he had $12,500, sorry, in IRS debt. And doesn't have an extra $125 to pay his electric bill. So there's a little bit of a contradiction here in what I've written, which we'll probably need to fix. Because it says he can't come up with the extra $125 needed to pay his electric bill right now, but he offers to help pay Delilah's car bill. Which may mean one of three things. One, he doesn't have the extra in his bank account, but he does have other sources he's just not willing to tap into for paying something like an electric bill. B, we really do need to fix that contradiction. Or C, he's not real with himself about the money he has. So let's see. He is kind of observant. Yeah, he was playing Fortnite. That's exactly what he was playing. Okay. So, that's what we know about Seymour and Delilah so far. Hey, Timmy! And I'm gonna bump up the scale so you guys can see better. Again, I just have to drop it down to get to the menus. Now the question is, crypto or delusional? That's a good question, right? So, this is where we can possibly have Seymour, Delilah, and DeVries tied in together. Maybe, here we'll give you the options. Let's figure out how does Delilah tie to DeVries? Let's see. What's the big naval college? The Naval Academy. Let's see. Well, there we go. There's options. Let's see. She studied Russian in college, she attended the Naval Academy, or she worked on a naval base. Ha 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 ha. Yeah, it was Seymour Duncan. An entirely good possibility. We got 2 votes for she worked on a naval base. Alright, let's see. Who else wants to... Annapolis? Yeah. Yeah, it is a nasty cold, thank you. Alright, she worked on a naval base after college. Okay. We'll just go for that. And let's see. So since we've decided that, now let's decide how are she and DeVries connected. He's blackmailing her. Former boyfriend. Adoption. Let's see what else. She owes him money. He's promised to help boost her music career. There we go. Those are 4 potential. Officers Club is always a possibility. Wow, we got a 3-way tie going on. That's fun. Okay, so here's what we're going to do with our 3-way tie. We're going to say that's her former boyfriend. She does owe him money, and he is blackmailing her all at once. Which is how he's gotten her roped into this whole thing. So money is playing a role in this whole thing. Delilah's dilemma is what we'll call it. Yeah, maybe. He caught her stealing from the kitty and promised not to snitch if she would just do what he told her to do. So it's basically prison sentence or help him do what she doesn't want to really help him do. I'm going to bump that up a little more because apparently my voice is so soft. Oy vey. Any rate, so let's get going with that. And let's figure out how is it possible for Seymour, who was having trouble coming up with $125 to pay an electric bill, how is he able to come up with enough money to pay her bill? What's he doing? Maybe he has a credit card that he wasn't using, that he didn't want to use. Let's see. He's a credit card he didn't want to use. He's tapping into restricted funds. He's borrowing money from someone who doesn't know they're being borrowed from. Or maybe he... Yeah, let's just say those are our options. Let's give that. So he's gonna, quote, quote, borrow money for someone, or using a credit card he didn't want to tap into, or he's tapping into restricted funds. Like, these aren't funds he's supposed to be using, but he has access to them. Yeah, I like the credit card he didn't want to use. Okay, we'll go with that. Yeah. Okay. Delilah was a box of red flags on two legs and he knew it, but she'd always made his life more interesting. He did miss that about her. Oh, wait. We already discussed what brought her out there. I just need to go back and remember what he'd said. Um, what she had said earlier. Let's see. Let's go back to where he got an encounter with her and remember what she'd said. And that's Lauren and them. Need to see more. This is the benefit. She was headed to Nashville. That's right. That's what she said anyway. Yeah. Oh, the wisdom of men. All right. Let's see. The drive to the nearest town took 20 minutes, but with Delilah present, Seymour felt like it took seconds. It's good to see you again, he told her. He refrained from adding how much he'd missed her, judging that would be a bit much. Delilah was a box of red flags on two legs, and he knew it, but she'd always made his life more interesting. He did miss that about her. He'd never been bored when she was around. It's good to see you too, Seymour, she murmured. I can't believe how lucky I got back there. Who knows what might have happened to me if some other man had come along. Instead of you, she said. He felt the warmth of her touch on his leg and found himself struggling to keep his eyes on the road. Glad I could be of service, he told her, nearly choking in his surprise. You said you were headed out to Mammoth Caves? She asked before moving that hand further up his thigh. Yes, he managed to get out, trying to locate a friend. The hand paused. Really? Something I could help with? Seymour shook his head. I doubt it. The best bet is for the two of us to focus on getting you back on the road so you can get back to Nashville. Oh, she said as the warm hand withdrew. Guess you don't have time for getting reacquainted then. I leaned toward him, yeah. Oh, yeah. Hey, Jeremy. I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh at my own writing, but this character is killing me. Alright. Seymour pulled into the nearest auto supply store and put the car in park. Reacquainted? How do you mean? Delilah's lips slowly curled up into a smile as she leaned toward him. I do miss our time together. Don't you? It'd been a hot minute since the last time Seymour had been on a date, and the scent of Delilah was filling the car. Temptation was calling his name, and he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to say no. It was likely a bad idea, but Seymour rarely met a bad idea he didn't fall in love with. This dude, man. I've been this dude. Oh, Lord. Yeah, I know, right? He's about to put those pickups in overdrive. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday Day, Valakai. Oh, poor Seymour. Oh. All right, so we're gonna figure out what exactly is going on here. Great. Yeah, wait until he finds out they have to order the part. That's a good one, Cal. That's a good one. breathing. How's your back and everything? And your shoulder? Yeah. So here we go. Oh, let's see. It's been a hot minute since the last time Seymour had been on a date, and the scent of Delilah was filling the car. Temptation was calling his name, and he wasn't entirely sure he wanted to say no. It was likely a bad idea, but Seymour had rarely met a bad idea he didn't fall in love with. You sure? I mean, he gave a perfunctory nod to good sense by at least offering the question, but that was silenced by her lips meeting his. I'm sure, she murmured. Nashville can wait. All the reasons he and Delilah hadn't worked as a couple fled his mind as she wrapped her arms around his neck and pulled him in closer. Let's see. The temperature in that car felt about 40 degrees hotter than it had just moments earlier, and all thought of Mammoth Caves, Hawkeye, Lauren, and the entire streaming community leaked from his brain. He broke away, leaving him panting, and reached a finger to wipe a bit of her lipstick that was on his face. Can't give you all the good stuff before we get my car fixed, now can I? Ooh, yeah. Well, I'm glad you're doing the physical therapy at least, and I'm glad you're getting better. That statement brought him back down to earth. Rooted? Ha ha. The nerve and chronic pain issues are the worst part? Yes. That I can agree with. Chronic pain stinks. Especially when, waking up every day and you're in pain and it just doesn't go away throughout the day. I mean, eventually your body gets used to it, more or less. But, it stinks. Mm. Sorry to hear that. Alright. Now, Let's see. Cal, you had a really good idea. They have to order the part. Yeah. All right. So, he wrestled with the seatbelt and managed to get himself out of the car, walked around to open Delilah's door as every good southern gentleman should. Not that he was much of a gentleman, but he did try sometimes. Ladies first, he told her as he escorted her into the auto supply building. He couldn't help but admire the view as she walked before him. They walked up to the counter and Delilah took the lead in describing what happened to the vehicle. The parts man did a quick look up on his computer. I am sorry to tell you this, miss, but we're going to have to order that part from another store. We don't have it in stock here. Delilah's face scrunched up, and she looked close to tears. How long is that going to take? I'm going to miss my appointment in Nashville. The parts man looked at Seymour, who shrugged, and then back at Delilah. Computer says we can get it here in 2 days, but that's the soonest, and you'll need to pay for it before we can ship it. Let's see. Let's say it's a carburetor. Oh, my spelling. Yep, 1967 VW Super Beetle. Those are that is actually my dream car, convertible. 1970 67 or I guess it's 1976. The blue one, VW Super Beetle. Let's see how much that would cost if you were to have to replace it. Yeah, it's not too bad. It's like $100. So, and then if you want, so the replacement kit. That's funny. Runs between a brand new one for $250 or like a used one for like $80. So, and then if you want it installed. Yep, yep, yep. Embracing the suck is the thing, man. No, Randy's been dealing with chronic pain since he was 16 and got uh, rear ended by a woman. And it really killed his back. And at the time, they didn't have the ability to do surgery without giving him a 80% chance that he'd end up paralyzed. So he decided to say no to that. All right. So let's go back and find out what we've got going on here. All right. Seymour thought about the credit card in his wallet, the one he'd not wanted to touch. It was supposed to be for emergencies only. He guessed he could count this as an emergency. "We'll take a new one for $250 and I'll pay for the installation," he told the man. It was almost physically painful to pull that card out of his wallet, but he wasn't about to leave Delilah stranded. "Geiker, it'll take forever to get to your doorstep. You ordered a couple of output jacks from the website and that was 10 days ago? Thanks, man." Sorry to hear that. Yeah, I know. It's hard to believe that. Used to be 10 to 12 business days was what we expected for deliveries. And now it becomes such an instant gratification society that we're mad if it takes 3 days to get to us. It's so funny the way the world has changed. Um, yeah. Let's not have him be a total yetz. Mm. They would support him and they would probably show up within a reasonable amount of time. Yeah, sometimes that doesn't happen. Your tools are coming from China. They're going to be here Tuesday the 10th, March 10th. Wow. Nice. They've been stuck in New York for 5 days now, Malachi. Wow. All right. Once the payment was made and they left the shop, Delilah grabbed his hand. I guess I'm gonna have to find myself a place to stay while we wait, huh? He hadn't thought about that. No, I'll handle it. I'll get you a place to stay while I go check out Mammoth Caves. She stopped walking and looked at him. You're gonna leave me here all alone? You sure you don't want to stay with me? Why don't you come with me to Mammoth Caves? Maybe they have a cabin we can rent out there while I see about looking for my friend, he offered, trying valiantly to allow his loyalty to his friends to win out over desire for Delilah. She pouted. Oh, Seymour, I don't want to go to Mammoth Caves. I don't want to sleep in some old cabin. I want to spend time with you. Can't we just stay here? Please? She took a step closer and trailed a finger along his jawline. I promise I'll make it worth your while. All right, and that is where we're going to leave it. Who knows? Does Seymour resist Delilah, or does Delilah win out? I have a feeling Delilah's going to win. But that is where we're going to leave it for today. Now, having said that, I would like to take a vote in the chat, and you guys can tell me honestly, would you like to learn? You'd be interested in learning about the business of writing? Yes or no? Simple question. If you want me to stick around, we can quit writing and chatting and we can go on to, I will teach you some of the things that I have learned about the business of writing. In case you were ever interested in publishing a book or getting a book published, we will work on that in the next hour or so. Just drop in and start a new document. The business of writing. Alright, so this is compiled over decades of working. Alright, well, those who are not interested, you are free to leave the chat and get on with your life. And those who want to learn, stick around, because that's what we're going to be working on. Anybody who wants to come in can drop in. So the first thing in the business of writing that you need to know, the most important thing of all, time and place. Hey Cal, you have a good one too. The most important thing when it comes to the business of writing, if you ever hope to sell your books, is who is your book written to serve. You need to know and be able to answer that question. Okay? Because if you don't know who your book is written to serve, you're not going to be able to sell any books. Surprise! You're going to have trouble finding your audience. And if you have trouble finding your audience, then you're leaving it to your publisher to figure out who your audience is. And your publisher's not likely to pick up the book because they're not going to know right off the bat who the audience is, how big it is, how likely they are to be able to sell the book. Basically, if you can answer that one question, you are ahead of 90% of people who pitch to a publisher. How many people just like that exist in the world? Right? That's the second question you need to answer. So they need to know the size of the audience. How many people are they likely to be able to sell this book to? Why are they buying? Give Brandy all your money. All your money. No, you don't need to give me any money. Not that I don't mind getting money. It's just that I don't think that's not my main concern. But anyway, why are they going to buy your book? Why are they buying the type of books? Buying the type of books you're writing? And why are they going to buy yours instead of other books just like it? Basically, if you can answer those 4 questions, you are in good shape. Okay? Because this is what the publisher has to answer. They want to be confident that your book is going to sell. So they need to know what audience they need to put it in front of. They need to know why that audience is going to choose your book instead of somebody else's book. What your book is going to offer that nobody else is out there offering right now. Or what makes it unique from those. And so that's why I'm about to teach you where to begin with your story. The first thing I like to do is to choose a problem that you already know how to solve. Okay? It's helpful to you if it is a problem you already know how to solve, because then you don't have to go out there and do the research to back yourself up or to figure out how to solve it, which is a legitimate path, but it'll take longer. Instead, you already have the tools you need to make sure that you can sell that book right here, right now, today, if you got it written. So, here's the basic outline. What is the problem your book is going to solve for the reader? And this applies to fiction writing too. Okay? What problem, if you're writing nonfiction, it's what book is your problem is your book going to solve for the reader? If you're writing a fiction book, it's not quite as straightforward. What problem is your reader facing right now that they are reading books to escape? Because that's why we read fiction. We read to get away from our problems. Not to confront them, but to find a portal away from them. So, nobody who's reading fiction expects you to have all the answers. But what they do expect is for you to help them take a break from that problem, see things from a new perspective, and maybe come back a little more filled with hope that there can be a solution. If they're writing nonfiction, though, they do expect you to have a solution, and they expect you to offer a solution that's unique. But what they mainly want, and this is true for both people, is a transformation. They want to change where they are to somewhere else. They want to be somewhere else by the end of the book. Whether mentally, physically, whatever. So, the problem that your reader is facing, the most pressing problem right now on their mind, is the problem that that book should center around. And here's where your hero's journey gets mapped out, okay? Problem. That's where the story starts. Now, the reason we can't solve our own problems is that we're missing information, or we believe something is true that is not true, and that blindness to the truth is standing in our way. It's either ignorance or blindness that stops us. So we'll put the mistake, because it's, ignorance or blindness that's preventing us. Tends to make us stupid when we count. And then there's the truth that we've got to embrace. There's the mistake that a lot of people make that think that nonfiction books don't have characters. They do have characters. They have the same characters as a fiction book does. Your main character for a nonfiction book is your reader. So you're addressing the content directly to them. In a fiction book, the reader, the main character is a reflection of who the main character would like to be at their best. Not in the beginning. They won't have everything put together. They won't have everything figured out. But there'll be a character that is sympathetic, that they can see themselves as and believe in, and who they want to root for. Okay? So it's important to identify who that character is and why they would be willing to root for that character. So the truth that your character, whether fiction or nonfiction, needs to confront or embrace in order to move forward. Then we come to the solution that you're going to provide. How you're going to help the main character get to the results they want. Because here's the truth. Fiction or nonfiction, people are still people. People buy to get results. They don't buy because they like you. They don't buy because they like the story. They buy because the story gives them what they want. So, like I said, in a fiction book, your reader wants to escape and find hope, or find love, or find whatever solution they need. They're looking to get it vicariously through the main character. In a nonfiction book, though, they're happy to actually solve their problems. So if you don't have a solution to offer them, don't write a nonfiction book. Sometimes people want to be people difficult. But if you know all this, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry for yawning in y'all's faces. Oh, that's terrible of me. Now, just because you know what the solution is, doesn't mean you know how to implement that solution. So the first third of your book is them encountering the problem, them stumbling across their mistake, realizing that they've got ignorance or blindness that they need to overcome, and encountering the truth. The next portion of your book is them finding the solution because they chose to embrace the truth, and then struggling to implement that solution. Okay? Because there are going to be obstacles to implementation. And you need to help them think through how they face those. Right? Just because we know Hawkeye is missing and we know we need to get Hawkeye back does not mean we have all the tools we need to get Hawkeye back. There's a lot of obstacles to face. And you need to be able to tell your reader, okay, here's how we're going to get past those obstacles. Then you have the results. That's the last third of the book. They get the results after they solve the problem. Okay, so they've got the obstacles, you've got the answers to the problem, to the obstacles, rather, and then you get to the results, right? But the results are only important because of what they produce next, a transformation. They literally change the main character's life. So if it's a nonfiction book, getting the results of solving their problem is going to transform their life. You need to know how it's going to transform their life, what it's going to do to them, to their family, to their friends, to their community. You need to think through these things. Because the bigger the transformation, the more valuable your content becomes. And in the case of a fiction book, the bigger the transformation that the main character has, the more compelling the story becomes. So those are the things that you need to include. And if you will do this, then you give yourself something unique that most authors don't have. The ability to think beyond your book and to leverage even a fiction book into a business. Okay? You can take the content that you've created as a fiction writer and talk about people who in the real world face that problem and the solutions that you have faced, that you have used to overcome, what transformations you've been able to make to encourage people to do that same thing. Does that all make sense? Have I lost anybody here? Do I even have anybody still with me? Okay, well, it's very silent. It is not too hard, you understand. I'm glad. All right. Glad to hear it. But yeah, so this is a hard truth about the writing industry. Most authors never sell more than 250 copies of their book in its entire lifetime. The majority of published authors don't even sell that many. Okay, gotcha. And publishers aren't exempt from that. They struggle to sell their books. And then I actually had a traditional publisher tell me that knowing who to market to for any given fiction book was guesswork. Well, no, it's not guesswork. It's knowing that your main character is a reflection of the audience you're trying to reach. So, for instance, if my main character is a 50-year-old streamer as it is in our other story. You know, 50-year-old guy, male streamer. So I can go over here and I can do research on demographics of the average 50-year-old male. Right? So let's look at that. He's 6.7% of the total male population. He's a father, most likely, and married, most likely. He's probably got less than $500,000 in savings. You know, we can find out a lot about them. He probably doesn't have children these days. In fact, age 50, 20% of them have never had children. So, and he's less likely to be married if he doesn't. So we can actually do research to find out a lot about him, and then we can shape that character around the things that we know about him. We can find out things like, what is the average occupation? Let's do this, right? What is the average occupation of a 50-year-old male? Most commonly employed in management, sales, transportation, or skilled trades. So let's say he's in management, right? That way we're hitting in that top ranking. The average 50-year-old male is more likely to be married than single. Okay? If he's married, he's more likely to have children. These are the little things that we can put into our characters that make them more likely. Yeah. He's significantly more likely to have children than to be childless. So, how many children does the average 50-year-old have? Let's see. 35%. Okay, so 37.5 have between 1 and 2 children. So we would probably give him 2 children, maybe a boy and a girl. Right? And this means that your audience will be able to see themselves in this character because they're more likely to have the average traits. They'll be relatable that way. And if you add in that personality type that is also relatable, then they're more likely to keep reading. There are 3 things that really create a compelling story. First is a relatable character. Someone people actually want to be. Or someone they sympathize with. To the reader. A problem that seems almost impossible to solve, but that is significant, that has a significant benefit to a large group of people. Oh, well, that's a significant benefit to solving it. So theoretically, somebody can be solving the problem of how do I get off a deserted island like we had in Castaway. And that's still a compelling story because the loneliness and isolation can kill you. So he's facing a timeline of, how long can he go before he goes, not to mention nature, right? So the problem seems almost impossible to solve, but it has a significant benefit to solving and at least a chance of success. You need at least that. And then stakes. High stakes. Someone important to the story, or something important, is going to be lost, destroyed, if the problem isn't solved in a timely manner. But that is the three things that really need to be in a story in order to make it compelling. Once you know what the problem is, you also begin to know how to market it. Because all you're doing is looking at a group of people most likely to suffer with that same problem. And that group of people becomes your target audience. But as a first step. But the second step is not to stop there. You don't want to market to those people. You want to market to the people who serve those people. So for instance, if you write a book for an 8-year-old child, you don't want to market to 8-year-old children necessarily. You want to market to the people who want to reach 8-year-old children, because they're the ones most likely to have the money to buy the book. So parenting groups, and teachers organizations, that's where you'd most likely market it, because that's where you're going to get your majority of sales. So it's all about thinking about who your audience is, what the problem is they face, why they need it solved, and why they need it solved now. Remember the high stakes factor. Okay. And then who serves people who have that situation in bulk, so that you can reach a mass audience very quickly and make larger sales. You may be able to partner with those organizations in order to get your book out there and to do well with it. So I hope that's helpful to you. It's just a little bit of the business of books and book sales. And not knowing this stuff is what is causing the publishing industry to go under. It is causing the problems we see in people producing books that just never do sell. They don't know how to sell them. They don't know why people buy books in the first place. And realize that every person buys a book to solve a need. You need to understand what need you're fulfilling. Escape from problems you don't know how to solve is the brain's natural pathway. It'll look for outlets to get away from the problem if it doesn't know how to solve it. So that's why they read fiction, right? But why do they read the specific genre of fiction that you're writing? Well, that's indicated by the kind of genre. A woman who's reading a romance novel has a need for love that's not being met. A man who reads an adventure novel has a need for adventure and challenge in his life that is not being met, and that he doesn't know how to meet in another way. A man, let's take the average kid reading a book about magic. What are they wanting in their life? They want the world to be easier. They want to be more in control of their world, and they're looking to magic to solve that problem. So looking at what the genre does is the key to understanding what genre to assign your book to, and then what what you're giving your people so that you can then flip the book and do more to serve your audience with what you've written than just write a book. Because I hate to say this, but a lot of people think you're going to get rich with the book. You are not going to get rich with the book. You are going to get rich with everything you do around the book. It is always about serving your audience and looking at new ways that you can serve them with the same content just by doing things a little bit differently. So I apologize for rambling. I hope you found this helpful or at least sensible. If you would like to ask questions or to get answers about business, book selling, or about publishing or anything like that, pop it in the chat. I'm more than happy to help. Ooh, it's like Inception. All right. Well, given that there seem to be no questions, I have done such an excellent job that nobody has anything to say. I am going to go ahead and close down the stream for today. Thanks, guys, for continuing to hang out. We will return to writing and chatting next week. If in the meanwhile you guys do have questions about books or publishing or the book industry in general, you're more than welcome to go ahead and email me. I will pop that in the chat. For those of you who haven't emailed me before or don't know my email address or forgot it, and you can ask me any of your questions there. I love you guys, and I hope that I can do more to help you guys succeed in any dream that you have. Like I said in my short this morning, it is my goal to turn this channel into the equivalent of a creative arts writing and creative arts retreat and rehabilitation center, where my goal is to position you guys to succeed through your creative outlets and help you get the most of your gifts and talents and skills. Thanks again for watching, and have a very blessed day.